different things are there in correlation. So we'll see. So yesterday we were looking into covariance and correlation, where quantitative to quantitative relationship is what we are trying to see. If input variable is quantitative and output variable is also quantitative, and we wanted to see whether the input variable is really important in predicting the target variable or not, we can do correlation test. It's an inferential statistical test. Okay, and it's a bivariate analysis. We are going to look into two columns. So there are two columns, x and y, and to calculate covariance you can use this formula, but covariance will give you direction only. Magnitude is not guaranteed, because depending on the values in the column, the covariance value will be high or too low or too high. But we in comparison with other relationship, right, you cannot understand whether it is strong or weak. To solve that, right, we have introduced this correlation. Correlation coefficient is a normalized value of covariance. What is normalization or standardization? We call it as normalization or standardization. Is one example, simple example I have taken was, take the maximum and divide all the values with the maximum number. All data will come between 0 and 1. Here also like that. So when we divide with the standard deviation, right, the covariance value comes between -1 and +1. When it is between -1 and +1, we can exactly know how strong and how weak. It's close to 1, very strong, very positively strong. Close to -1, it is very strongly negatively correlated. And either way is good. No, it should be either close to -1 or close to +1. If it is close to 0, right, there is not that much strength in predicting the target variable. Okay, so that is correlation, and we were actually looking into the heat map. That heat map is nothing but a matrix of colors rather than numbers. So let us look at the code example of how to do heat map, and then we'll understand more about correlation. So I have taken the same employee data set. Employee data set where we have employee number, designation, experience, salary, and whatever. And then designation.value count, we already saw this, how many for each designation, how many people are there. Just for fun I did. Now covariance calculation. On a series object, this is a series object, right? On a series object, there is a method called as COV. It takes other column. So we are actually checking covariance between experience and salary. I've got this number. Experience and aggressive behavior. Experience and activity score. Or I can do between salary. I can take like this. How good the aggressive behavior score is. How, see that? So these two are negatively correlated, but how strongly negatively correlated we don't know. The number, how big is big, we don't know. How small, we know. If it is close to 0, right, strength is not that good. But even when it is close to 0, if the values in the columns are small, no, there is no guarantee that it's weak. So it is giving direction only. Strength it is not giving. Okay. So to calculate covariance between all numerical variables in a data frame, experience to experience how much, experience to salary how much, right? Experience to aggressive behavior how much. It's a Cartesian product kind of. These are the singular matrix. Upper triangular values and lower triangular values are going to be same, right? So COV on a data frame also you have a method called as COV, which calculates covariance. So that covariance can be represented as heat map. Let me show you. So here I am using a subplot, right? plt.subplot and figure size, and then I'm using CBAR, and there is a heat map method which actually takes a matrix of numbers. Covariance is a matrix of numbers, and then C map is the color map. Okay, there are different color maps in here, C bar. Let me show you. See, new color maps. These are Tableau color maps. These are okay. They are very nice to see and all that. You can use these color maps to have different colors here. So I have taken this different kind of. They changed it, I think. No, they changed the way, I think. Okay. So CMap now you can take different color. If you don't specify this, right, it will get different color. See that default color map it took. I used that, right. It'll be more clear. Okay, and then format dot 1f. This is like C language format. I wanted to have a number where only one digit I wanted to show. If I take out this format, right, it's going to be clumsy. See these numbers 2.9 e power 10 e power 08 and all that. You cannot not human readable, right? So formatting the float number is always good. Annotate true. The number you wanted to show on the box or not. Right? If I don't annotate, right, it will not actually show the number there. Okay. And if you look at heat map API, right, you will understand all these. Clip on, I think it will get stuck with that. I forgot what this clip on thing. These guys, right, they change the API quite frequently. See that this parameter is not there now. And in every method, right, there will be formal parameters and in a keyword argument parameter in the end. Maybe this is one of the keyword parameter arguments. I don't know why I used it. I forgot. But even if we take out this, right, it's going to work the same way. Maybe because of the new version. Okay. That's okay. So X sticker labels true, right? Do we want to have labels or not? Right. So no need to have this X sticker because Y and X are same, right? But the order you may forget. So if you have true, right, that's going to be good. So from where the experience is starting, we need to know. The names on Y-axis and X-axis are same because we are trying to do the relationship between the those same things, right? V min and V max, right? On the scale, how much is the minimum and how much is the maximum we should be taking? Okay, so if I take out this, right, see that it actually started with 0 and went up somewhere, right? It did not consider the negative values and it is showing thick green, beyond this whatever green, right, it is actually taking. So you need to specify some scale there, rather it's not going to be, you can take any number here. If you take 100,000, beyond that limit it's going to be thicker, thicker color. See that? Now it is more clear, right? So line width 0.5, this gap, I think the gap between each cell and other is 0.5, I think. See that? It increased, right? If I put 10 there, right? And square true, right? You wanted to have it as a square or a rectangle, or you can make them as neat as possible. And these diagrams are useful when after building a model, you need to justify why you have removed something or why you have kept something, and all that, right? These diagrams are useful in explaining why you actually did something, right? So I can take the number, the Vmax, Vmin till I think 29 million, I think it is. But these numbers, right? When you use covariance, these numbers actually doesn't make much sense. They'll give direction only. The number is not that important. But this Vmax, Vmin, right? That makes sense in correlation than covariance. Did you understood my statement? I'm saying that Vmin, Vmax, whatever you take, it doesn't make sense here. Why am I saying that? When you look at this color, right, what you are getting? When you look at the heat maps color, what are you understanding? Nothing you understood? Did you get this heat map stuff? Can I move on? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Ram. We are able to hear you.
Okay, so let us look at correlation now, right? Yeah, now I have taken other other data set, a simple data set, quiz data set. Okay, and then if you look at the covariance here, right, it is too scattered. If you look at the covariance between quiz 1 and quiz 2 marks, right, it is too scattered. If you look at the covariance score between quiz 2 and quiz 1 is 0. When you look at the scattered plot, right, between these two columns, it is, see this? If there is relationship, right, the lines are, the dots are going to form a line, especially a straight line. Okay. So for example, I have taken related data and unrelated data, how it looks like. Okay. And then correlation coefficient. There is a method called as CORR, experience and correlation. I think I should change this to. So to decide whether a feature is useful, in feature selection, this is going to give us some insight on whether to use it or not. Okay. So the correlation, the CORR method is there on the data frame also. When you do CORR method, you will get all numbers, right? The correlation between the columns. And you can use this correlation matrix to do heat map. Now here, I did -1 and +1. See that? So here the maximum, minimum is -1 and maximum is 1 in correlation. So I can take -1 and +1 as the Vmax and Vmin. Okay. Then you will see clearly, right, which ones are very strongly correlated, and which, if you look at the diagonal, right, it is all 1. Why? Why it is all 1? If you look at the diagonal, Will we get always 1 in the diagonal in the correlation matrix?
It is related to its own. So
Ah.
experience is related to experience.
Yeah. So when you take experience and experience columns and try to calculate correlation, one is increasing, the other is strictly increasing. So you got 1. Okay. So that's a simple thing, but I just wanted to see whether you are listening or not. So the lower triangular matrix and upper triangular matrix are going to be same. Okay. So correlation matrix actually gives you direction and magnitude correctly. The colors actually help you understand which columns are actually strongly related and which are not. If I take -2 and 2, right, maybe more clear, but no, you can take -1 and 1. No, it's not clear. Same. So if you change the palette, right, the color map, you can get different colors and they look nice. Most recently, the Seaborn guys added Tableau colors, Tableau, whatever that visualization tool, right? Those colors they added and they look nice. They are cool and nice colors. Okay. So now we understood what is correlation, what is covariance, and we know how to do the heat map, right? Now let us jump in and see a concept called as correlation coefficient represents only linear relationship. Okay, I said that if the correlation coefficient is 1 or -1, they are either strongly positively correlated or strongly negatively correlated. Now I am saying correlation coefficient represents only linear relationship. Let us look at the data. I have taken a simple data set, linear data set, right, input and output. When I did the scatter plot, I've got a line kind of a thing here. I have generated this data, okay, to show you a strongly correlated thing. The correlation coefficient is 0.98. Okay, I have taken other data set, one more data set where the data is not linearly related. If one is increasing and second is strictly increasing, right, we say linear relationship. If you look at this data set, right, and the scatter chart, for some time when one is decreasing, the other is also decreasing. Sorry, one is increasing, the other is decreasing. After certain amount of time, right, it actually, when one is increasing, the other is actually also increasing. Is there a relationship between these two columns, input and output columns? By looking at this graph, what can you say? Is there a relationship between this input feature and output feature?
No.
Huh? No?
It is close to either -1 or +1. You can say it's
Inversely relational.
Don't look at correlation coefficient and or don't think about correlation coefficient. Just by looking at this graph, can you say there is a relationship or not between x and y? Okay, by looking at this green one and red one, which one has got relationship between x and y?
Linear data set.
Sorry.
Linear data set.
Linear data set. The green one has got relation and red one is not having relationship. That's what you think, right?
Yes.
Anybody else has got any comments? I'll say both have relationship. I'll say both have relationship. If you if you look at this input and output, right, the output can be represented as x square. What is x square? A parabola, right? Output value is equal to input value square, I can say. Can I say that?
yeah.
Right? When I am able to derive an equation, that means there is relationship. If you look at this data, here, can you derive an equation between x and y, quiz 1 and quiz 2 in this data? Are these data? Can you? Huh?
No, we can't.
We can't, right? So by looking at the graph, you can understand what is happening there. Okay. So if you have huge volume of data, right, sometimes what happens is these dots will be very clumsy and they are cluttered. you may not be able to make any sense there. Then what you need to do is look at the correlation coefficient and graph both and then decide. But if you look at this graph, when you look at the graph, right, we can say that there is relationship in both the cases. But when you look at correlation coefficient, here it is showing 0.98. Here it is showing minus 0.23. Is this close to 0? This number is close to 0, right? So if you look at only correlation coefficient, you will be misleaded by getting an inference that there is no relationship between this input and this output. Okay, so that's the point here. Correlation coefficient represents only linear relationship. The strength, the number is representing the linear relationship only. If there is non-linear relationship, right, it cannot explain. The number, the correlation coefficient we calculated cannot explain non-linear relationship. So what is the solution? I said that you can use correlation coefficient to understand relationship and decide whether a feature is important or not. Now I am saying by just looking at correlation coefficient you cannot decide. So what you need to do is you need to look at the correlation coefficient as well as the scatter plot. Okay. So when you look at the correlation coefficient, you will understand linear relationship. If most of the features are related, you can choose an algorithm which actually tries to derive linear pattern. Getting it? If you look at our old class, the previous class, we use linear regression. Let me try to show you that. See, when we try to use linear regression, the algorithm actually found a straight line through the data, right? If all input features have got good correlation score, when you calculated a relationship between the output variable, salary and experience, salary and lines of code, salary and behavior, all have got either negative number, all have got a correlation score either very close to -1 or +1, then you can choose a linear regression algorithm and it will work best. Okay. Will we do that when we have 10,000 columns? No. It is just for conceptual understanding. We are trying to understand these. Okay. So when your correlation coefficients are small, but the relationship is there like this between each individual feature and other feature, linear regression algorithm will not work. You may have to go with polynomial or some other complex algorithm. Getting it? Correlation coefficient only cannot explain the relationship. It will explain linear relationship. You want to see whether there is by looking at correlation coefficient, you should not come to a conclusion. You look at this, keep it aside, then build a scatter chart, then decide whether relationship is there or not, or this feature is important or not, can be decided by looking at both correlation coefficient and scatter plot. One cannot decide. Got it? Any questions? Any questions? Correlation coefficient can represent only linear relationship. This point you need to remember. Okay. So I have taken a linear data set. I generated this. I think I need to upload these. I'll upload these today. And then I calculated a correlation between the input and output. I got 97.8. And then I tried to look at the scatter plot. plt.scatter, the input features, the output features. Color I gave green. And then I have taken a polynomial data set. What is polynomial equation? What is polynomial equation? Do you remember?
Y equal to mx plus c.
That is linear equation. That is an equation for a line, straight line. Y is equal to x square is a parabola. Y is equal to x cube is like it's going to be like s. Okay, so they are all polynomial. When the degree, right, we call it as degree. 5x square plus 6x plus 7 is a second degree polynomial. 6x cube plus 8x square plus 2x plus 3 is called as third degree polynomial. So the power of the x is called as the degree of the polynomial. So you can see that. See that it's a parabola. When you put values into x, right, you get y values which are actually going to reduce and again increase. Okay, x cube. See this? This is how it's going to be. Okay, x to the power of 4. Right, like that. So each of these equations will have different shape. If you try to add, so like that, it will actually add, the maybe x cube. There will be websites which actually give you the shapes of the graphs. Okay, so I have taken a polynomial data set where I have taken an equation which is x square kind of a thing and randomly generated inputs and passed it and created this and looked at the correlation coefficient. It was negative 0.22, right? It looks like there is no relationship, but when I looked into this scatter plot, right, I found that there is relationship. Okay, if it's unknown data, then you should definitely look at the scatter plot. Then only you should make a decision that there is no relationship. Okay, that is one point with correlation. Another thing is, we'll talk about this. Correlation is not causation. Maybe I'll talk about that first. Correlation is not causation, right? I am saying that I am making contradictory statements. I said that if correlation is the coefficient value is 1 or -1, they are strongly positively related or not, negatively related. But now you see, correlation is not causation. I am saying when there is one correlation or -1 correlation, it doesn't mean there is relationship between those features. I made one statement and contradictory statement I am making now. This statement is based out of business. Okay. Sometimes when you take two columns and try to calculate the correlation, you may get one, but that doesn't mean it is really related, because business may not say that is those features are related. Let me take this example. Okay. So yeah, I have taken experience and salary also. Okay. So if you below, right? I don't know whether you can see this or not. Let me expand this. So on x-axis, right, firefighter count I have taken. On y-axis, I have taken number of casualties. Okay. If you look at this graph, what you can get? What is the inference you are getting? Number of firefighters on x-axis and number of casualties on y-axis. What you can get?
Raman, there is a delay in the screen.
Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
I should
now.
stop the video. I changed my router. Still, I'm having this problem. Maybe with those guys, the Hacked Fiber. When I raised a complaint, right, they said your router is losing packets. So I bought a new router with 3,000 rupees and still having the same problem.
Yeah, there's the default answer they will give, irrespective of the subscriber.
Okay.
Act or you, whatever.
Actually, better go for Airtel, sir. Actually, if you are in Hyderabad, better go for Airtel.
Okay.
The service is good, and the router they will only give the router, that ADSL routers.
Okay. I already bought a router. This is going to be.
Oh, sorry.
And I paid for 6 months also, I think. I'm waiting for Reliance to come because we'll get
Yeah.
TV and internet both, right? So in our
Yeah.
area, Reliance is not there.
Okay.
So here, right, if you look at this graph, what you can get by looking at the graph, what business you can explain, or in English sentences, can you explain that graph? That needs this kind of understanding, or we need to look at graphs and understand basically while working on the projects. Can anybody try? I'll correct anyway.
They are linear, casualties and firefighting count.
They are linear, right? That means number of firefighters are increasing and the casualties are also increasing. Is that really true? When you look at any fire accident, when number of firefighters increase, will the casualties increase?
No.
No, they reduce, right? But in this particular data, it looks like that, right? When you do a correlation coefficient between these two, it will give you a positive number, but that doesn't mean it is really true. Ground truth or the business actually contradicts with the graph where that is statistics and business. The difference between statistics and business always is the truth. Statistics is a clue. It is a tool that gives you a clue. This may not be true. This may not be true. That is what the statement is. Correlation is not causation. That's a statement, right? Made by statistics. So correlation is not causation. So actual, in the data set, there is a number of firefighters column, number of casualties column, and there is one more column is called as area in square kilometers, right? If you look at this graph, area square kilometers and number of casualties, what is it saying? What is it saying? Casualties are increasing, right? Is this true?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, right? This may be true, right? Because of this, this is causing, right? So compounding variable, we call it as. This is all statistical terminology you need to remember, right? So here, area square kilometers is the compounding variable. Actual variable which is affecting the number of casualties is the confounding variable. Okay. The other variable, right? The number of firefighters is not actually the real variable which is actually causing number of casualties. Area square kilometers is the variable which is causing the maximum number of casualties. It may be a wildfire, right? In the forest, the area is more, casualties are more. When area is more, obviously the firefighters are going to be more. But you should not be looking at the relationship between these two and try to build a model to predict number of casualties based on number of firefighters. Which one to eliminate, which one to take. So this is kind of, you can make that decision also. You should know business. Then only your correlation or whatever, correlation coefficient or chi-square test or ANOVA test, all make sense only when you know business and only when you actually really look into the visualizations. These are all different tools, give you different ideas about the data, but you need to mix all of them along with business knowledge and make decisions. Okay, so correlation is not causation is one concept. In interviews people may ask, and then the confounding variable is one more concept you need to remember. Confounding variable is the variable which is actually affecting the relationship. Okay, this is not confounding variable. Firefighters, number of firefighters is not the confounding variable. Area SFT is the confounding variable. Okay, so we have seen correlation coefficient. If the value is close to 1 or -1, we said it is negative or positive relationship. Then we said correlation will explain only linear relationship. The number explains only linear relationship. If there is non-linear relationship, the correlation coefficient is not reliable. Okay, the weakness of correlation coefficient. Okay, and the second weakness is It is always not right when you have correlation between two features. They are really related in terms of business. When you are building a model, the relationship should be there in terms of business, not in terms of statistics and numbers. Okay, got it? Got it? Any questions? You're all good, right?
So, sir,
Yeah.
regarding this confounding variable, so a dataset can have more than one confounding variable based on the requirement what we do have. Right? But based on the requirement, we should find out the confounding variable of that problem or query, right?
Yeah. Generally, when you know business, right, you will know confounding variables.
Okay.
Sometimes what happens is business analyst may ignore some confounding variables. You may find relationships like these and then try to ask him, right? I am finding some relationship between these two variables. Is there any business significance, right? Is there any significance in terms of business? You will try to check. Maybe that point in time, they'll do some business analysis and find out, yes, there is. Because as a human being, we may be able to look into maybe 100 or maybe 5 or 10 or 100 features, but beyond that we cannot. But as a data scientist, right, we may be looking at maybe thousands of features, right? When we are looking into more features, we may find new variables which may affect the target variables prediction, and that will improve the predictability of the model. How many confounding variables are there in the data? That good the model is going to be, right? So in that analysis and trying to add more power to the model, whatever we learned is going to be useful today. Whatever we learned today is going to be useful. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. So that is, I have taken if you look at the first graph, it looks like employees are, if you look at, I think I have flipped I need to take the same on x-axis and y-axis. So if you lines of code and salary, I think I'll go back to that. I'll go back to that and I think X label, experience and salary. I think I have to take both. See that? If you look at this, right, lines of code is reducing with the salary increase. It looks like when you raise the salary, right, people are reducing coding effort. Is that true? In reality, is that true? When you increase salary, people reduce coding?
Maybe it's based on experience, but not
Yes,
necessarily.
right. So the confounding variable is experience, not the lines of code. When you look at relationship, right, it looks like that. Okay. So can we use this feature? Yes, we can use it to predict, because whether it is confounding or not to understand, it is a different thing. But in this particular case, right, we can use this feature. Lines of code also we can use, but that is not no. Maybe in the model, if we use it, right, it may actually create adverse effects. Sometimes maybe people like me, even with higher experience, they do more coding. They'll have more lines of code. Then that record becomes an outlier because of the lines of code. Other people with high salaries may not be doing how much coding, right? Maybe one or two people who are actually still into coding and who have lots of experience and salary, their dots will come somewhere here, right? So they look like outliers, but they are not. And when you have outliers in the data, right, the model may not work perfectly. We'll talk about this in future. Maybe you need to eliminate those records or eliminate this particular feature because it is not confounding. Okay, so that is on the salary column. Okay, so any questions here? We are good, right? So here, right, one more concept on correlation is we can do hypothesis testing, okay, of correlation. So I'm going back to that p-value stuff, okay. So and there are two kinds of formulas, two formulas for calculating correlation coefficient. One is Pearson and second is Spearman, right? The correlation coefficient formula we looked at is Pearson correlation coefficient, okay. There is another concept, there is another method called as Spearman correlation. What is the difference between these two? Pearson correlation will take actual values and try to calculate a correlation coefficient. How will it do? It will actually do the covariance and then calculate the standard deviations of the columns and divide it with standard deviations, right? So that is the normal Pearson correlation. But Spearman correlation will actually take the ranks into consideration rather than the actual values. Why do we need to take ranks into consideration? If the spread of the columns is completely different, see this here. I think yesterday I briefly explained a little bit. There is a subject, subject 1 and subject 2. On subject 1, the score is between 100, the maximum score is 100. On subject 2, the maximum score is 10. If you look at the scale, right, they are different, right? When you try to do correlation coefficient using the values, it may not come exact, perfectly, because x minus x bar and y minus y bar you are trying to take, right? So in one subject, the person would have got 99 marks. In another subject, he would have got 2 marks only. Okay. Sorry. Give me 1 second. This is not corona. Winters are not suitable for me. So I have cold allergy. That's the problem. I think you are seeing me for like this for last 15-20 days, right? So
Yeah.
so when the scale is not same on the columns we are trying to measure the relationship, we should better take the rank of it, right? So here, right, there are two ways to do it. Either you do normalization of the data, take the maximum and divide all the values with the maximum number. Here also take the maximum, divide all the numbers with the maximum, right? Then what happens? This column comes between 0 and 1. This column values also come between 0 and 1. Then you calculate, Pearson correlation. That is one way. The second way is calculate rank of the column. What is rank? Now the small value I gave 1 and maximum value I gave 20, I think. I took 20 ranks here. 20 values are there, so 20 ranks. If you have 100 students in your class, 100 ranks will be there from 1 to 100. And if you have 1000 students, 1000 ranks will be there. Like that, here 20 students are there, so 20 ranks I have taken. Maximum marks I gave maximum rank. Generally it is going to be reverse, right? Maximum marks first rank they'll give, minimum marks they'll give last rank. But I just reverse it. That's not a big deal, right? So I calculated rank, and here also I calculated rank. What happened? Both columns came to same scale. Do you agree? Right? Both columns came to same scale. Now you calculate correlation coefficient. Same formula. On rank you are calculating correlation coefficient. That will give you more appropriate relationship, because in terms of maximum value, where this number stands and where this number stands is clear. When you calculate rank or when you actually normalize the data and try to calculate correlation coefficient. Spearman correlation is also called as rank correlation, because you take original data, find out rank, and then calculate the correlation. Got it? difference between Spearman and Pearson? Any questions here? Okay, let us look at how to calculate Spearman and Pearson correlation. So I actually took the data, right, and then calculated Pearson correlation. There is method called as Pearson R in SciPy. Yeah, SciPy, right? So in SciPy, there is a method called as Pearson R and Spearman R. Okay, Pearson R method will actually take the original values, employee and salary. I've got 95%, 95 correlation. And here to do Spearman correlation, I have taken the marks of students with in two different subjects. I did Pearson, I've got 87, right? I did Spearman, I've got 92. See this, how much difference here? Actually 5% difference I have seen here. Okay, the correlation coefficient is 5% difference. Okay, so why we got this? When we say Spearman, it is going to take the columns and calculate the ranks and then calculate the correlation. I actually tried to do that. There is on a series object, there is a method called as rank, which actually calculates the rank like this. Okay, you no need to do anything. You just need to understand the concepts. There will be methods for everything. There will be modules for everything in data science. Many people say data science is easy because you need to understand concepts. Implementations are already present. Okay, so first column I have taken calculated rank. Second column also I have taken calculated rank. Now I am doing Pearson correlation. See this, 92 I have got even on Pearson also. When I use rank, you no need to calculate those ranks and do Pearson. If you say Spearman R, right, automatically it will calculate the ranks and then do the correlation. Did you get it? When scale is different or variance is different between two columns, too much difference in variance. Why am I saying variance here? Can anybody tell me? On the subject 1 and subject 2, I said scale is different, variance is different. On the first column, will the variance be high compared to second one?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah, right. So in real time also you will see columns which are varying in nature. One column will be between 1 and 1 million, and other will be between 1 and 10. Right? It's going to be too much variance. Then you need to do Spearman correlation. Okay. Are you clear? If you are clear, right, I'll jump into the next thing. And there is one more small thing I need to explain in correlation.
Rama, in the output, we are getting two values, right? One is correlation coefficient. What is the other one?
I'll go to that only in a minute. If anybody,
Okay.
everybody understood everything, right? So that is the hypothesis testing part in correlation. Okay, I think everybody is good. So let us jump in and understand what that second number is. When you use this score, right? This RA series object CORR method, it actually giving you the correlation directly. How is it doing? It is actually calculating x minus x bar, y minus y bar plus x minus x bar, y minus y bar divided by whatever, right? Whatever n minus 1 or n and divided by sigma x and sigma y, whatever the formula it is using. But when you look at the Pearson R and Spearman R, it is giving you the score along with the p-value. This is a p-value. See this Spearman R, Pearson, this is p-value. If you see E here, right, E is like 10. E is equal to 10. 4.9 into 10 to the power of minus 7. It's going to be 0.60749. That is the p-value. Okay. when you see p-value, right, there must be a null hypothesis. Do you agree?
Yes.
In any statistical outcome, must be an null hypothesis. Let us look at the Pearson R and Spearman R in SciPy. Okay, now correlation is going to be between -1 and 1 and all that, right? The p-value roughly indicates the probability of an uncorrelated system providing data sets that have a Pearson correlation at least as extreme as the one computed from these data sets. No, not this one. Somewhere null hypothesis will be there. Somewhere null hypothesis I forgot. These guys change documentation. Every time I come in, right? Every 6 months I come here when I explain. So there is null hypothesis. Yeah. Under the assumption that x and y are drawn from independent normal distributions, as the population correlation coefficient is 0, the probability density function of the sampling correlation coefficient is going to be this. So don't look at this, okay? Just look at this part. Under the assumption that x and y are from independent normal distribution. What did you understand? What is the null hypothesis here? Did you understood what is the null hypothesis here? Did you guys understood the statement? Anything? You know, even if it is correct or incorrect, don't worry. Just answer.
It says x and y are not related is the null hypothesis.
Yes.
I think x and y are like inputs, right? Independent, right? It's like inputs variables.
Don't get confused between. Don't mix up those independent and these independent things. Here, we are actually trying to look at two columns separately. Don't think about model building now. It is not model building thing. It is just that whether relationship is there or not, we are trying to find. They both can be independent variables, and one can be output and one can be input variable. Got it?
Okay.
Between two columns, we wanted to see whether relationship is there or not. Okay. Now, if you look at like that, right? X and Y are drawn from independent normal distributions. They are saying, there are two assumptions there. One is that the data is normally distributed, right? Both columns, the column X and column Y, both are normally distributed. That is one assumption. The second assumption is both are independent. Actually, we need to look into this independent stuff, right? The null hypothesis is saying X and Y are independent. Now, the p-value, should it be greater than 0.05 or less than 0.05 to say that the relation is the correlation is strong? There is relationship. Null hypothesis saying independent. Alternate hypothesis will say dependent. We need to reject the null hypothesis. To reject null hypothesis, how much p-value should we get? Should it be less than 0.05 or greater than?
Greater than.
Less than.
Less than.
It is confusing. Right? I was like, I started explaining I actually started training. While training also, I used to get confused for an year. That's how this null hypothesis thing is. So don't be worried.
Rejected is less than, yes.
Yeah. So here, if you look at the p-value, This is actually 0.6049. It is definitely less than 0.05. So we can reject the null hypothesis, and there is strength, and this score is actually reliable. Okay. So along with the score, it is giving you the hypothesis testing. Why that is needed? Why that is needed? Can you think? Why? No, we are calculating the correlation coefficient. That is good, right? But why do you need p-value also? This is actually showing you that 87% means a good relationship, right? Why do you need p-value? I am saying p-value, by looking at p-value, you can reject null hypothesis. Say strength is real, right? By not looking at the number, can't you say the strength is real? Do we need to do hypothesis testing again? The answer is the relationship may be by chance. Okay, maybe by chance means randomly, ad hoc it happened. But when you shuffle the data, right, you fix one column, right? You fix one column and shuffle this data and try to calculate the correlation. If you are getting the same correlation all the time, suppose that two columns are same numbers, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. No. All are twos. All are twos or all are fives. No. 2 2 2 2 20 numbers. 5 5 5 5 20 numbers. No. Two, both columns are same number. Suppose that both columns are same number. First column is also 20 numbers, fives. Second column also 20 number fives. You calculated correlation, you get 1. Okay. Now if you shuffle the data and try to calculate correlation, fix one column and shuffle the data, but the second column, try to calculate correlation, you will get the same. In that case, right, p-value will be high. Let us try to do that experiment. Let me take this data. If it is by chance, right, whatever, when you do this shuffling stuff and calculate the p-value is going to be greater than 0.05. So the relationship is by chance, we'll say. The relationship is by chance. Okay. To see that whether the relationship is by chance or not, the hypothesis testing is going to help. So the SciPy's Pearson R or Spearman R is more reliable than whatever these CORR methods, because it is just a mathematical calculation. This is actually statistical, inference. It is inferential statistic. It is, when you say Pearson R, right, it is going to take the original data, calculate the score, keep that score aside, and then it is going to fix one column, shuffle the other column, calculate the score again, shuffle the other column, calculate the score, shuffle the other column, calculate the score. How frequently this number is happening when you shuffle the data and calculate the Pearson R? If it is too far, the p-value is going to be small. If it is too close, p-value is going to be big. You need to connect with the rat example. Whatever I am speaking right now, you need to connect with rat example. Got it? Got it? No? Yes? Let us see this example.
Sir, can you just explain once again, please? Don't mind.
I'll explain. Give me 1 second. Let me try to do. Think a little bit of time. Take maybe 2 minutes. In the meantime, right, I'll make a data set here and then show you. Actually, I used to have that example. People were getting confused, so I took it out. Maybe I'll take some number, I'll do this first. Let me do this first and then. I never did this experiment. Now I'm doing it right away in front of you and see whether. I think I did not execute these statements here. It is getting none. Maybe I'll put 10 here. See that? The correlation it gave negative, and the p-value, see this? 0.82. Why it actually gave this is, when you calculate correlation between these two columns, right, it would have got something, but it is by chance. Because of the values are not, values are actually kind of, no need to do the correlation coefficient test here, because when you look at the data, right, the variance is not too high. Even when there is a relationship, this is not useful actually. There is no meaning in calculating relationship here. Let me go back and explain this. So maybe I'll do this way. I am trying to explain, right? Zero. I think we need to take like this one. Yeah. And then maybe we just shuffle this a little bit. Yeah. So this statement, the statement I made here, you want me to explain, right? So let me go back and explain. Here, let me take a screenshot. So we can actually do correlation coefficient. We can find correlation coefficient by saying, this, whatever that subject df underscore obj of subject 1 dot corr of subject df underscore obj subject 2, right? I can do this, right? When I do this, right, I'll get the score, right? 0.92. 0.92, I'll get it. Okay. But I'm actually using the Spearman R or Pearson R, which is actually giving me the p-value. Why I am doing that is, this might have happened by chance. Whatever the correlation coefficient we got, maybe by chance. What is meant by maybe by chance? The data is in such a way that even if you shuffle it, or the relationship is there, but it may be strong, it may not be strong. When we say it is strong or the relationship is significant, even when only this situation is unique, then you say it is strong, right? If you shuffle this column, right? If you fix this column and shuffle this column and try to calculate correlation, if you are not getting this value or getting a value like around 0.01 or 0.02 or something like that, and you are not getting this value or very rarely you are getting this value, that means the strength is real. Got it? Got it? You asked question, right? Are you getting it or still I'm explaining the same way? So it is like this, you wrote an exam You wrote some maybe UPSC and you got selected as IAS officer. Okay. And somebody wants to test whether it is really significant or not. What is the significance test they're going to do? Do you really wrote the exam by not copying? That's the significance, right? So to test it, to test that, right, what they should do, they should actually see, they should make you write the exam many times. Okay. Out of all the times, if you get the same score or similar score, that means it is significant. Whatever you did is significant. You know, if you wrote 100 times, only one time you got the score, and out of 99 times you are not getting score, that means by chance you actually selected as IAS officer, right? Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah.
Right, like
Yes.
that, like that it is. When you do significance test, right, it is putting the data at data to a stringent test that it makes sure that this score is really significant, really significant. There is that significant relationship. To see that, we are looking at p-value. If the p-value is less than 0.05, we say this is significant. We reject null hypothesis very strongly. Okay. So the exam, the IAS exam is the good example, right? If you make most of the IASs who are there in the in the field, right, they may not get selected multiple times, right? So that's kind of the thing it is doing here. Okay, and if you look at this data, let me try to take maybe I may change it as one here, one. And then take this say .corr and when you look at this data, right, you clearly see that there is relationship, and you see that is not significant also, because the variance is not that big, right? Here, if you take A here, then it is going to be more. See that? So the value, whatever you got, is not significant. Where if you do this, right, if you do only this test, you will look at the correlation score, but you don't know whether it is significant or not. Can you take this score taken for granted? We don't know when we do this. But when you do the Pearson R, right, by looking at p-value, you can clearly say that this value is not significant. The relationship is not guaranteed. Whatever the strength it is showing is not guaranteed. We can clearly see that by looking at this. How is it calculating? It is going to do the calculation here, and then it is going to shuffle. Maybe I'll do this like this. Give me 1 second. I think there is a method called as choose or sample, which actually randomly chooses the values. CHOASER. Now see, these indexes are changing. See that? Right? What I'm going to do is so what I'm doing here, I'm fixing the subject 1. I'm actually shuffling the subject 2. Did you get it? When I do sample, right, what is happening? It is sampling the data from the data set, randomly sampling it. So index has changed. Okay. So I'm going to check the correlation. Right. I'm going to do that. Right. Even when I am actually shuffling the data, the correlation is not changing. See that? Right. Getting it? Any questions there? This particular data, even when I am shuffling one column and fixing another column, I am getting the same correlation coefficient. That means whatever the correlation coefficient I got here is not significant. Right? When I shuffle the data and trying to calculate the correlation, if it is coming different, that means this is significant. right? When I am shuffling data and trying to get the correlation and getting some number, right? That's like at random also you have the same relationship. At random it is, right? At random you have same relationship, and in real also you have the same relationship. There is no significance, right? No relationship is what is it is actually proving true. So the p-value is going to be bigger, or no, the at random this correlation coefficient is coming very often. But if you look at this, if you take this data and try to calculate correlation coefficient by sampling, you will not get this score right here. Right, let me take 2 more breaks here and then take this data. I think somewhere here I have. Understood or not, I didn't get it. I may be confusing you. Okay, I changed the object there, right? 87 we got, okay, but I do sample here, right? This is at random, right? At random, I'm actually trying to pick and choose and try to see whether correlation is there or not. Okay, this is not changing, I think. In place true, maybe let me see, right? It is not changing, I think. What is the type of this object? It should change, right? This object. It should change. It should change. Okay, let me try to assign it to another series object. It is not changing. I don't know why. Let me see. I think indexes are not changing. Okay, it is actually matching the indexes, I think. So I need to reset the index. Sorry, I forgot. Dot reset index. Dot reset index. Sample dot. When I reset the index, right, what happens? Let me show you. This is also an important thing. When I sample, right, the indexes got changed, right? See, this is 10, right? When I say in the drop index, I think. Drop index, reset index, series object. And drop through. So we should drop the index there. Original index it will drop. See that? Right, if I put this, if I ignore this, right, what happens? Let us see. See that? It actually shuffled the data, right? The 16 index is the first one, 9 is the second one. But when we are using it here, right, without resetting the index, what is happening is it is matching with the same index there. So I need to say drop true. Then it will actually reset the index. Now the values actually shuffled and the indexes also shuffled. Now use this use this here. Now it's going to be different. See that n number of times you are doing it is getting different, different correlation coefficient. But this correlation coefficient, right? Whatever the correlation coefficient you are getting here is not happening at random. If you see this here, at random, is it happening? 0.87. Is it happening at random? Guys, can you see? Yes, you are all silent. I am scared.
No, it's not happening.
Huh? Are you getting it? Are you getting it? What am I doing here? Are you getting it? No? Yes? No, I don't think you got it. That's okay. Even if you don't get it right, that's okay. I'm actually trying to explain this hypothesis testing, how exactly the hypothesis testing is working. Even when we shuffle that, the correlation coefficient is oscillating around that number only, many times. When you do sampling distribution of means, right, this number, this correlation coefficient, and all those correlation coefficients, if you take and do a sampling distribution of means, this correlation coefficient will fall within one standard deviation. That means 68% of the times at random it is happening. That means it is not significant. The correlation coefficient is not significant. For some columns, the correlation coefficient is not significant. Even though there is a strong relationship, it is not significant. Weak relationship also not significant. Then what you should do? Don't use those features. Got it?
Yes, Rama.
Right, I'll upload this file, right? You have everything here. Try to experiment and now check with me tomorrow. Okay. Definitely you should ask some questions on this. I think you have some confusion there still. And I'm actually trying to connect dots here. I have explained something in the rat example, right? And then I'm actually trying to use the same theoretical concept, in linear regression summary also I used the same concept, and here also I'm using the same concept. The hypothesis testings basics are all present in that rat example. You go back and look at the rat example and come back and look at this and still have questions, come back tomorrow and I'll explain. See, nobody will take this much care in explaining the statistics concepts because I wanted to show you some show of executing machine learning algorithms and deep learning algorithms. May not be deep learning algorithms, only a machine learning algorithm. That is not true. Machine learning algorithms is one part. Total project, only 20% is machine learning algorithms. Rest all 80% is all the statistical data analysis and pre-processing, and how to build the model, how to deploy the model. These all things will come, right? So machine learning is 20-30% of the total project. Okay, so this is all very important. Whatever I am explaining for the first 1-2 months is the key, the basis, and if you know this well, in AI, whatever you want you can do, because the field is actually growing and it will grow like anything in next 2-3 years. There will be many concepts coming in. If your fundamentals are strong, you will be able to learn new things very easily. Okay, don't think that I'm actually wasting time or being